Welcome to Writers Radio and our program, Writing Tips with Arleen Paré. I'm Ingrid Rose, and you're about to hear the conversation I had with poet and multi-award-winning writer Arleen Paré. In this program, Arleen generously offers up her own experience of how several of her 10 published books got seeded. You can find the titles on our website at writersradio.ca. Her first poetry book, a mixture of poems, prose, fragments, and fairy tales, indication of what was to come from this author, was Paper Trail, in which the protagonist Frances becomes overwhelmed by the destructive bureaucratic nature of the work world she lives in. Arleen shares with me how she was influenced by poet, memoirist, and writing mentor Betsy Walland, who in 2001 started and continued to direct the Writers' Studio at Simon Fraser University for 12 years.
Paper Trail, as you probably do know, came out of the Writers' Studio program with Betsy, and also a course that she was giving at that time apart from the Writers' Studio program, but mostly in the SFU, maybe second year, I'm not sure. And she encouraged the students in this class, all of us women as I remember, it was a novel reading course, to follow the format of one of the books that she had on the list, and there were at least 5 or 6. One of the books on that list was Betsy's book, Bloodroot, and it's written in chunks and lots of white space and ideas that may not follow necessarily as many novels, chapter novels do. And I was so pleased with that format. What she encouraged us to do is to use the form for our own material. And so whatever material was giving us difficulty or angst or problems, use that material into the format of the book that we chose. And so I did. And then it just kind of took off and became a book. So I started writing the book following Betsy's prompt and her formatting. But at the same time, I thought, whoa, I need something else here. I need some literary heft, because it was such an, I'm going to say non-literary, but I don't mean it quite like that, but outside of the canon, way, in left field. And I thought, no, I need something with more weight. And so I thought, I know who fits in here. And that, of course, was Kafka, because he wrote so much, about bureaucracy, etc. I introduced Kafka, and then he just went wild.
So that kind of segs into really what was behind this question, or how I was formulating it, that because you waited to write for a long time, I think
yes,
virtually till you retired, not that you weren't writing, but then you just took off.
That's right. And you know what I say, and this is pretty ordinary, but I felt like, no, I hadn't written at all. It wasn't that all the time that I was working in bureaucracy, I was wondering, should I be writing? Should I leave now? Is it time? No, it never occurred to me. I stayed with mental health. But in the meantime, I had to write a thesis. And the thesis was so much fun to write. Now, I know most people don't say that sort of thing, but it was so satisfying in the end. I had to do research. I had to do interviews, all of that, pull it all together and make a document out of it. And I found it so rewarding that I thought when it finished, I remember driving home from my defense at UBC thinking, whoa, that was a pile of fun. So maybe I should start writing something else. And so I did.
Oh, so you're not like Kafka at all.
No. No, I'm not half as good a writer, actually, but yeah.
The dedication to Arleen Paré's 9th book, Absence of Wings, published by Caitlin Press in 2023, couldn't be more topical. For A, and for her mother and her sister, and for all the world's defenseless children. Then she writes, in 1985, my sister adopted A, an 8-year-old child from Brazil, her new daughter. I became her new daughter's aunt, her only aunt, and I became her mother's main, maybe her only, confidant. Absence of Wings bears witness to A's story, partial and partially fictionized, and to the profound effect her life had on the small family around her. She was one child in a world of so many. The time we had with her opened the world to us. This is the first poem in the beginning, section 1. She arrives wearing a wide purple coat, with a quote from Lucille Clifton. The angels have no wings. They come to you wearing their own clothes. Arleen Paré reads the poem in her book, Absence of Wings.
The scent of snow this day is laced with lemon, with leaving, layered somewhere between lonely and love, in the breathtaking air between airport and car, her spiraled arrival. And for A, who has never known the cold, snow smells like confusion, like nothing at all, hollow, a billow at the back of the throat. April is the month, the 13th, and yet snow still falls, loosely, falling apart, an undersong, the last notes of winter folding into the first notes of spring. She arrives wearing a wide purple coat, felted wool with a belt, and a tricolored toque, mauve, magenta, maroon. In the car, the hat stays on her head. Plus, there is this dog, small enough but still a dog, on the back seat where A and the dog must ride side by side, fur feathered gold, but under its lips, teeth. She knows about teeth. In Brazil, there are dogs that will kill you. Ask anyone. In Sao Paulo, those dogs will eat you. They will tear you apart. So A sits tight against the car door, eyes angled right, watching out the window into the white, avoiding the sight of the furred lump with 2 ears that could bite her, kill her, though its head now lies on its paws. I could call this mythology, authentic in part, as mythology sometimes begins in partial truth, wherein an original small human being grows through tribulation into a god, a goddess, the god of endurance, let's say, or the god of a very big smile.
Towards the end of Absence of Wings comes this poem. A is now a woman in her 30s.
The scent of snow this night still smells something like lemons, clotted maybe with car fumes, hot oil, pepperoni, the old pizza parlor there on the corner. Midnight or half past midnight, A's pretty sure, midwinter, but ever since she lost her wristwatch. Or did she give it away? She's 33 years old, and she needs to be back at the facility for midnight curfew. Okay, she's late. Snow drumming down cold as steel bullets, sharp symbols and stars. Bank Street already devoid. When her wheelchair, Yes, she now uses a wheelchair. So much has happened, and winters are worst. Such a slow mode for her who has always been fast. Suddenly, the wheels catch, become stuck. The wheels wedged, jammed in the rutted, razor-sharp ice. The frozen street hodgepodged, tire-marked, footprinted with rime. The wheelchair battery now running low, mid-street, and then the battery running out altogether. She's stuck in the middle, almost middle. A pickup honks as it swerves to the right, and her heart and the lights, when she remembers the new government policy, her mother told her, hammer heart, that small drum inside, the new ministry directive directing wheelchair clients must obtain 3 estimates, 3 repair quotes before contracting the services of a wheelchair technician. She thinks of her mother. She always thinks of her mother. Past midnight, and keeping in mind the award-winning Ottawa cold, the frost freezing, her ears, the tips stinging, without her new tricolored hat. Where did her hat go? And her mitts, her cigarettes. Opening her coat, fishing inside the inner pocket, she finds only one. But where is her lighter? The traffic light shines red a half block away. She's under a street light, its sodium haunt. And here come 4 men, past midnight, weaving wild over the road, 4 men who only know how to laugh, how to shove and guffaw. She has given away her mauve-colored mitts. Why, her mother will ask her. Just because, and she is not in the mood to obtain the 3 requisite quotes. She has only the number of 1. The 4 men have been drinking, laughing now over loud. They almost drown out the sound of her heart. She is stuck in the ruts of the ice, finding her cell, and of course she calls her mother, her mother will answer the phone. Never mind the rule, only 5 calls a day. At night, her mother always answers the phone. Trapped in the middle, almost the middle, immovable in her black, battery-operated, her chair, her life, stuck on the road where the cars might, and her mother. I know, she can hear the downturn of her mother's mouth, the battery, and I don't have a hat. Her mother, too, stuck, taking the call, past midnight, the stuck clock of history, how life can grind to a point. But the 4 men are slowing, they're stopping, are saying, do you want us to? And they carry her, tilting, listing a bit to the left in her unwieldy chair over the impossible ice, crunching onto the sidewalk, also slick, placing her down. And now she can laugh too, fear having masked, pent up, past, wouldn't you? Her mother still on the phone saying, which corner? Where the old pizza parlor, you know the one. And can you bring me a pack of cigarettes and my lighter? I left my lighter on the hall table. Smiling, relieved when her mother arrives in the car. Maybe anger is almost like laughter. Maybe fear is almost like grief.
Not only does Arleen Paré use unusual forms to create her work, derived from books and poems that speak to her, she's no slouch when it comes to taking on family. In September 2020, Arleen Paré's almost 20-year-old grandson moved into the basement of her home to attend courses nearby. After suffering a bout of severe anxiety and depression, he was forced to drop out of his second-year computer science program after 1 month. In an effort to quell her own feelings of helplessness and growing anxiety about the situation, she turned to poetry. In Encrypted, her most recent book published this year, 2025, as Jane Munro writes, Arleen Paré assesses the age of anxiety with anguished clarity. Social media, climate crisis, pandemic, addiction, inflation, depression. Both a tender tribute to a beloved grandson and an elegy for coming of age in our modern online society.
I have made of myself a long river of words, a plain flatlands meander of words, looping back, looping ahead. The Old Testament posits the word, words being the main way we open and close. Take me away, bring me back. Night comes and the sky stops in its heedless rotation. If you have made of yourself a door, in time, can you make it to open even halfway?
The poetry, it's very digestible.
Yes.
Stay with it. And yet there's a quality to it. I want to say magical in the sense that you conjure atmosphere. Most of your work is poetry, right?
Yes, I think people would call it poetry all the way through. Although, like Betsy, it's unusual.
Yes, it's mixed genre. It's not
Mixed-ish, yeah. And yet often it gets called poetry. I have to just say this once more about Betsy. I'm so grateful to have studied initially with her. So I didn't get trapped in the traditional forms and traditional way of lyric poetry being written. Betsy's courses, and I took more than a couple with her, gave me permission and the understanding that white space is useful and it says something, that you don't have to do traditional poetry for it to be poetry. It was so useful to learn that and how its use could inform communication. It was extremely, I would say, the making of what I do in poetry. Yeah.
in terms of absence of wings, very close to home. It's your sister. Is this your only sister? She's a younger sister.
Yes, she is my younger sister by 2 years. She lives in Ottawa, so she's not close. We visit a couple of times a year, which is lovely. And yeah, she, I can't remember how old she was, but in her 30s sometime, she adopted two girls from Brazil. This first one, older one, I call A. Nothing is easy about having children, ever. But an adopted child who didn't speak English and who had different, she was 8. A was 8 years old when she came, having been through an abandonment with her mother, not intentional, but just because of her mother's life, and then sent to an orphanage in Sao Paulo. So a ton of issues by the time she was adopted. Yeah. And so my sister, a single parent, managed the whole thing on her own. It's an amazing story.
And she's written
Yes,
in depth about it in the anthology, am I right?
in the anthology that she wrote called Always With Me, but also she wrote her own memoir, I'd call it, Ingrid. Before this came out, before Absence of Wings came out, she had written her own book, and it is called Falling Together.
Hmm.
And it is about mental health, because there's no way that one person in a household having mental illness doesn't affect the other people. And so The book is a lot about that, about parenting through such enormous systemic difficulties in mental health system in Ottawa that she was dealing with, the school system, you name it. It wasn't easy.
Is there a coincidence, or maybe less a coincidence, that you both went into the field of mental health?
Yes. Well, I went into the field. I was a social worker, so there are these various fields, and mental health was what I ended up in. Not that I always thought I wanted to do this, but Donna didn't. She worked for the federal government in the women's, in various programs in the federal government. People move around all the time, so that was her primary job. And then she ended up teaching in universities. I mean, that was her job for a while, and then she left it, and now not now any longer. She's retired, but she worked in universities.
Both of you writing. I mean,
Yes, I know. Yeah, it's so
anybody in
amazing.
the family going back to, is there a precedence for this?
Not really, not really. I have to say we grew up in a house without books. I mean, I know that's saying a lot because many people have books. I'm sure we had children's books. I don't remember my parents owning books, reading books, lots of magazines, newspapers, that kind of thing, but no books. No. So that precedent, no. But we had a paternal aunt, Mary, who did write a book and was very keen on writing, but we didn't know her all that well as we were growing up. Knew her laterally because I live in Victoria. She lived in Sydney, so we saw more of her then. Yeah. But really nobody else. No.
And what about your offspring? Have you spawned other writers?
Well, I would hope my son Peter has written a short, what would we call it, chapbook kind of thing. And I'm sure he could write quite happily. And I think my son Jesse could, but it never would occur to him at all. I have a granddaughter, Ella, who is interested in writing. She's 10.
And in your process,
Yeah.
how would you say that works for you? I'm sure it's not the same every time.
It's not. Um, and ideas come to me just sort of by osmosis. I'm just hanging out, and then my grandson moves in. Well, there you go. The absence of wings came to me because I was taking a course that encouraged us to write about something like this. I can't remember exactly how it worked, but now Thomas and Daisy, reading a book by an American poet in the mid 80s, wrote a book called Thomas and Beulah about her grandparents. And when I saw the title, I thought, oh my, I think I have a grandparent story, Thomas and Daisy. So I just lifted the title and then started writing about my grandfather. My grandparents move into our house for 3 months. Then he falls in the tub. The splash, the weight of the wound, a bear crashing rocks in a river. He has lived down the bones of nearly 91 years. My mother objects. He only wants a mid-afternoon shot, which she must now deliver in a small metal cup to settle him, right after she writes him. 3 inches of bath water cooling, soap scumming around the tub's rim. She has wanted to write him, to write him off, write them off, since she married their son. The eye has knowledge the mind cannot share. What has he done? A small starburst of red rucks his left cheek. Blue blooms on his left elbow, his shoulder, his hip. Who knows the mind of another? She is not unkind, my mother. but she is not Catholic. She does not believe in whiskey as a daytime distraction.
Arleen Paré reading from her current manuscript, Thomas and Daisy. The title inspired by Rita Dove's Thomas and Beulah, a poetry book about her grandparents.
The girls with stone faces, which is nothing to do with much of me, but to do with the two sculptors, Loring and Weil, who worked mostly in Toronto. And I was with my sister Donna, who lives in Ottawa, and we went through the art gallery, the wonderful National Gallery, which is so beautiful. And they had a lovely 2-room maybe exhibition of Canadian sculptures from the mid-century, and then there were their works. And I just deeply fell in love with their work, then followed up with the book.
I suspect, well, that's probably the wrong word, but being queer.
Yes.
Also it presents itself as a framework.
Well, you're quite right. And what I didn't say after seeing the exhibit of the two girls was when I hadn't seen their work before. And when I went over to the wall where their names were displayed and the names of the works and everything, the works looked similar enough. And I could see that these two artists were kind of together in the works. And then when I looked them up, I came back to Victoria or Vancouver at the time. Nope, it was Victoria. And Chris had a book about these two sculptors, Loring and Weil. Became evident, although it wasn't stated, that these two women lived together, worked together, and were likely queer.
Yes.
So yeah, no, and that's part of what attracts me to a subject, of course. But it's also a frame, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, and I don't know if it's in the form of a chapbook, the friend of yours.
Oh, yes. It's called First, and she was my first best friend and made a huge difference to my childhood, huge. And so there was a book called First, published by Brick, probably at least 5 years ago. And then my first best friend, Pat Hurdle, same age, she died the year that it came out. So I wrote a chapbook, you're quite right, called Last. And that's right. And that was about her and losing her. Yeah.
Yes. I guess it's really, loss is a big part of
Yes.
your writing, isn't it?
Yes. I think you would say.
You've been listening to Writing Tips with Arleen Paré, a wonderful journey through the poet's books and readings from Absence of Wings, Encrypted, and Thomas and Daisy, her current manuscript. This is Writers Radio. I'm Ingrid Rose. As always, a big thank you to co-producer Carol Harmon and our technical whiz and music man, Gary Sill. Thank you for listening.
You have been listening to Writers Radio, a non-commercial collaborative project which presents talented writers reading their own work. These stories, essays, and conversations revisit the long tradition of oral storytelling that connects us to the inspiration behind the words. Be sure to check the website, writersradio.ca, to subscribe to our free notifications list. It's also a way of letting the writers know you are there and appreciating their creative work.
Writers Radio broadcasts from Half Moon Bay on the Sunshine Coast in Canada, traditional tribal land of the Sechelt Nation of the Coast Salish peoples. We express our gratitude for their wisdom teachings and land stewardship.